Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Microdose Your Wellness. In this episode, I get to interview my friend Kat Hecht. Kat is a freedom lifestyler, and she coined that term a few years ago when she realized the 9 to 5 world was not for her, but that time, money, location, and inner freedom were. One of the things that I absolutely adore about Kat is her ability to go through life with a sense of calm and ease. She is one of the most grounded, calming forces that I know, and I asked her about that. She has a non negotiable morning routine. She walks us through what her morning routine is, how she sets up her day, how she sets her intention. And she recently recorded a podcast about the 5 steps that she used to maintain a sense of calm and ease when she had to flee New Zealand when COVID hit. We recorded this episode about a month ago, but the nuggets of wisdom are priceless and they're timeless. And so, with that, my friend, Kat Hecht. Hi, how are you? How's it going? You're wearing a sweater. Is it cold in Germany?
Oh, it's like half a sweater from my mom because I don't have that many things with me. So yeah, I have a top which I've been traveling with over the past 8 months or so, and I have half a sweater.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. I can relate to it not having clothes. I actually just got clothes. I ordered clothes the other day. I mean, I've been telling you about like I was literally like borrowing clothes from my mom as well. But I mean, is it cold in Germany?
It's dropped a bit.
Uh-huh.
So the weather was pretty good. Like it was sun, 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 but now it's gone down to about 10 degrees Celsius or something. So in the sun, it's a little bit warmer, but all in all, it's got a bit more cold. It's not 40 degrees like in California.
Yeah,
So
it's hot here, and I'm so grateful for my clothing delivery. I mean, it was like, okay, this is the sweat mustache and the big hair, and just like long sleeves while it was like hot was not good. But so how's it going in Germany? I mean, it's so funny. I mean, we've tried to do this now. This is our third time, so I think third time is the charm. And I think this time, it's like of the essence. We talked about morning routine in the first 2 episodes, which were delicious and juicy, and you have such amazing you know skills and just tips to provide people. But I think now, especially like what you've gone through and just in the time of COVID, how are you acclimating to life in Germany when you weren't exactly expecting to be there?
exactly. And it's the first time in a long time that I'm back in Europe already in April.
Hmm.
So that was interesting, but all in all, I was honestly surprised of the calmness that I felt. Once I touched ground in Germany, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm here." And it feels so calm and it really felt good and kind of right. And so I didn't expect that, or I didn't expect it that strongly, and that was really good. Yeah. So since being here, I don't know. I'm just happy to be here, and I don't have the urge to go anywhere at the moment. So I'm just happy being here now and enjoying this. And yeah, because New Zealand was really stressful, not because of New Zealand, but because of the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, New Zealand is, having been there before, it's a beautiful country. The people are lovely. And I mean, you normally spend 6 months of your life there. And so all of a sudden, it's just like you had this sort of like, holy shit moment where it was like, we have to get out of here. And you had to, get out of there really quickly. And so your life was upended. Most people have been these days. Um, but you recently recorded a podcast, talking about your morning routine, which is a
Mhm.
huge part of you and a huge part of what you do every day. And one thing that you said, and I loved it, was inner clarity in that particular podcast. And it was like, yes, that's it. We're always, especially now, I think people are, we are kind of forced to go in and really kind of figure out how to make ourselves calm, but we're always looking for external forces and external validation. So,
Mm.
I'd love to talk more about, why your morning routine and what, sort of the inner clarity means to you.
Hmm. So I've been doing a morning routine for probably I think I started about 4 or 5 years ago. And that was also the time when I started meditation or first did meditation, then it dropped off, and then I kind of restarted it at some point. And so it's been always it's always been there over the past years, this morning routine, and it adapts, or I adapted to the circumstances. So the core of it is sitting in quietness with my coffee. That's the core what it comes down to, and that's really sacred for me, so um but when I can, and when I feel like I write, so now I've been in kind of a huge writing phase in the morning. It just helps me to get clear on things and to structure things, and that could be like one aspect of creating this inner clarity, writing, because it really helps you digest things and process things. And but what really helped me, especially in this crazy times in New Zealand, because there was this decision, okay, what do we do, my partner and I? Do we go back to Europe, or do we stay in New Zealand? Do we go back early, or do we stay? And then, the information and the circumstances were changing like literally every day. And so, okay, we can't rebook our flights because there aren't flights to Europe anymore. And then there was this, so literally every day there was new information out. So it was really kind of a confusing time, and really I felt this huge uncertainty going on. Also, staying for an unknown period of time, and yeah, not knowing where this was all gonna head. And so my morning routine, and especially meditation and breath work, what was helping me, really anchor myself into myself and create kind of an inner certainty.
Yeah, just
So
getting that, like,
yeah,
that peace of mind, and just, like,
yeah,
it's all gonna work out in some way, shape, or form. It's all, I
yeah,
don't mean to be cliche, but it's all gonna be okay. I mean, you obviously got out, and I know it was, like, super stressful. I mean, what was traveling like? I mean, I traveled, as you know, like, right as all of the shit was hitting the fan, and so you traveled, it was, like, a month later, right? Like, you've been back in Europe now for 2 weeks? 2-ish weeks? 3 weeks?
3 weeks now, yeah.
I don't even time has, like, no
Ah,
meaning at this point. I don't even know what day it is.
it's
I
yeah,
used
it's
to
a
know what day
different quality these days.
it is, and I think that that's a really good point to make. Like, it is a very different quality to make, and I mean, we still have a finite amount of time on this earth, we don't know what that is, we're sort of living in uncertainty anyway, just in normal time. But, yeah, I mean, like, I was traveling, right as the shit was hitting the fan. You traveled 3 weeks ago. Like, what was that like? That had to be fucking crazy.
It was a crazy experience, a kind of a intense experience. So I got back on one of these repatriation flights, or mercy flights, organized by the German government. So you won't believe it, but there were like 10,000 Germans only in New Zealand who wanted to get back. And that's kind of crazy, I found. And walking through the airport in Auckland was bizarre because everything was closed. So no shops open, no cafes, no nothing. And then on the plane as well, like we got a shoebox. It looked like a shoebox of snacks, and they only served water, which is okay for a repatriation flight. It's not a vacation flight, but yeah. So it was, and then I don't know, that surreal situation hit me while I was sitting on the plane, waiting for, well, waiting to so that we took off. And it was like, yeah, well, you look around and everything seems so normal, and you're like, wait, why am I here? Oh yeah, right, there's this weird virus going on. But it's, yeah, it's a surreal situation. And then we were basically on the plane for 27 hours because we had a fuel stop in Bangkok, but of course we weren't allowed to get off. And yeah, so it's a, yeah, it was surreal, and the season ended very abrupt because it was literally within 2 days, like, okay, you have a flight, that's your shot, and you'll be there. And then it's just, when you're living somewhere, it's like packing up everything. Of course, we prepared a few things, but it's like packing up everything, parking up our van, saying goodbye with a distance and stuff like that. So
Which, I mean, that's insane. I mean, we did not have we weren't somewhere for 4 months. I mean, we weren't there for a really long time, but it was, I mean, just the travel was super, I mean, it was stressful. So you get back to Germany. What was your first morning? Like, how have you started to repatriate yourself into into life there? I mean, this is the new normal. So, now that, your morning routine is your anchor, your quiet time with your coffee. So what is that? Did you change it? Like, what does that look like?
So the I didn't change the basics
Hmm.
or so the way it helped me in New Zealand was like, really breathing, meditation, and then coffee and writing. So I paired that with an asana practice for a while, but I felt the breathing and the meditation was really what was helping me to calm down and to also create that headspace that we need in these times to think clearly and to have this clarity, this inner clarity. And so coming here, that didn't really change a lot. I also started early, and thinking back to the first morning, it was like, wow, of course I woke up really early, I think 4:30 or so, and I just seized that opportunity of getting up, and I actually started incorporating one new element. I actually started working with mantra, and yeah, I started that the very first morning being here, and it wasn't like it was nothing forced upon me. I just felt like that it's like now the right time to start with that, and yeah. But now being here, I feel that yeah, it just continues to be this constant, yoga practice, breathing, meditation that really helps me get through the day in an empowered way, and yeah, to also keep up this new dynamic that's now coming up here. I feel the space to be more creative because I have the space around now. I have more mental space, more physical space, and yeah.
I love that. I love that you've created space. And I know, we've talked about that, about like what should we be doing now. And I know you were, a few weeks ago, it was like, oh my gosh, like you felt this like sort of pull and this urge. And it was like, it'll happen,
Yeah.
it'll happen. And just, I love that you allowed yourself the time to settle into
Hmm.
where you are. Do you have like, do you always, sort of do your meditation and breathing first, or do you journal first, or does it change? For me, when I was doing it in the morning, it changed. I found that I did like to write more right when I got up with my coffee, and then I did my meditation and breath work most of the time. I would say 85-90% of the time, that's how it just flowed for me. Do you have like a prescription that you do every morning, or it just whatever honks your horn?
So at the moment, I struggle a little bit with, getting up really early. It might still be kind of a adjusting thing. I think I'm over the time zone difference, but still, sometimes it just takes a while until you settle into a new rhythm. And I think it's important to allow yourself that time. So I'm not beating myself up because of that. But ideal for me is doing breathing and meditation first, and then I would have my coffee and my writing, because otherwise it kind of frizzles out. I don't know. I just
Mm.
drink coffee and write, and then I sit there for too long. And then for me personally, I feel it's too late in the day to, I mean, it's not. I do it the other way around, but better for me is meditation, breathing, and then having the coffee and writing, then also looking forward to the coffee is quite nice. So
I
yeah.
understand that. I do. I think about it. It's funny because I only have one cup a day, but like it is that like that morning ritual, that hot beverage. And sometimes it's matcha, but most of the time it is that coffee. There's something just sort of like a warm hug every morning.
Yeah. And also what I feel is that when I've done my meditation or some inward journeying before, I'm more creatively empowered, I would say, to write.
Mhm.
So what comes up in the meditation or in the yoga, I can process that or, write it down and make more out of it later on. So yeah.
Yeah. I do need to I need to switch it back. I do enjoy it more in the morning and than in the evening. I just was, just given all of the, everything that's going on. I'm in a new surrounding. I'm at my mom's, new
Yeah.
clothes, thank God. But it was like, all right, it just kind of flowed a little bit better in the evening. It was just a little bit of wind down time, but there is something about that morning routine that does, it sets your day up for just a little bit more of empowerment, of success, and just the ability to be creative. So I love that. In your solo podcast, not your most recent one, but you had 5 tips.
Mhm.
You remember what they are? I'm sure you do. But you had,
I have
yeah,
them in my
you had 5 tips for people to, start to, build that inner certainty, that inner clarity, and that, just to help them ground, because we are in uncertain times. I mean, your point, like, everything is changing day by day. It's like the state is opening. I mean, here in the US, it's like, every state is sort of doing its own thing. There's, and
It's the same here in Germany.
yeah, and it's crazy. It's like some states, you can get your hair cut and get your nails done already, which I'm dying to do. I mean, like, I told you
Me
I was
too.
trimming my own hair. I am trimming my own hair, which I do, sort of in between haircuts, but it's time. But I'm also like not certain. I'm still a little hesitant about, like, what that means. But, so we are kind of like, do we, don't we? And just this sort of like push pull. But you have these 5 tips for grounding yourself that were, I mean, super easy to incorporate. Like, you can do them right now.
Yeah. So the first one, of course, and that was, as I already said, literally my rock in that stressful time, or in that super, super uncertain time. And I know, just to add this to the conversation, this could look so differently for everyone. I know there are people who, like me, were stuck in a foreign country, but then there's other people dealing with other things. So stressful looks very differently, but um, you know, to really create this inner certainty, or like an inner anchor, maybe even some solace. Sometimes, I don't know, some days you just feel really sad, or you feel grief, and then creating some kind of comfort and solace within you, I think that's what really helps us and anchors us. And the number one thing for that was really my morning breathing and meditation. And I'm happy to help anyone out there, getting started, or how do you do that. I'm happy to go more into details and private messages. And the second thing, if you can, go for a walk outside. I mean, nothing beats nature in, really grounding and clearing your head. And so walks outside are always really helpful, just turning your face to the sun, and yeah. If
No,
there's
it's
some.
true. My mom and I go like, we make ourselves go every day. It's like, it feels good. And it's just take that big, oh my God, the big deep breaths of air, just like, oh
Yeah.
my God, it feels good in the sun. And I think this is another one of your tips, but actually sticking your feet, like, I take my shoes off and I'll walk on the grass just to, even for a few seconds. And I think that you do
Yeah.
that too, earthing, as they call it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you can, take off your shoes, your socks, and walk on the grass or walk in the sand, and just that just gives you some extra grounding. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some stuff that you pull up there. I mean, it's like, who knew walking around barefoot would actually, like, be so
Yeah.
beneficial for you. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm a big fan, and I think I don't notice it that maybe not that strongly anymore, but I don't know, if you've never done it, do it, try it, and see what you feel. And because we're so out of, so out of touch with nature oftentimes. And I think taking off your shoes, walking barefoot, even if it's just in your house, can be so liberating and such a cool new experience. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm so used to walking around barefoot from being in a yoga studio all the time, and
Oh
so
yeah.
I forget. I don't usually wear shoes in the house, so I'm, definitely barefoot. But outside, I mean, like, I lived in New York City for 12 years. I was certainly not taking off my shoes, but I was no, gross. Except, if we would go to the park and, sit there and have a picnic or whatever, it was like, oh yeah, this actually, it does. It's sort of just like, even if it's that like moment of presence of like, oh, this just, it feels good, and then you can go about your day. I mean, it's not like, it may carry you through the rest of your day, but, even if just in that moment you get that little like shot in the arm of like, hell yes, that's what
Yeah.
I'm for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So those
So
so
the
those are
third way,
yeah, okay.
sorry.
Yeah, no, 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 go for it. This is not my show, it's yours. So
Uh,
this is all about you.
the The third way would be, or what helped me to really calm down and create headspace and anchor myself, is being more gentle with myself,
Huge.
listening to my body and my mind and my soul, and just tuning in a bit more. I think I'm quite good at that anyways, but just being a bit gentler and a bit more forgiving with yourself. And I know there's a lot of go-getters out there, and I mean, we were raised that way in our Western societies, to have the urge to produce and to do. And even if we like intentionally say, okay, today I'm just having a day on the couch and not doing anything, there's this little voice creeping into our head saying, like, oh, you should be doing something. And just being like, no, it's actually okay to do nothing today, or to not go for a run because that might just not feel right for me that day, but to do a stretch, or to, you know, cancel some appointments, even if it's just, calls or video chats or whatever, and say, no, actually, I need that time for myself. I just want to lie on the couch with a book or spend some time with my children or whatever it is, just creating that space for yourself, what feels good, and tending to that. Yeah.
I think that is a huge, huge point. I mean, I know the day that I got back to my mom's, it was like, oh my God, I have to be doing something. And I was like, no, just you, first of all, you just flew 14,000 miles in 72 hours. You can, and drove,
Yeah, that was crazy.
yeah, and
A
then
little
just
bit.
drove 400 miles, to get here, and you don't know what's going on. So you can sit and take that day. And the analogy that I always use with people is, if your phone battery is at like 20%, you start to see that little red battery light. You're like,
Mhm.
holy shit, oh my God, running around trying to find a charger. Your body is probably at 20% right now. Maybe not right this second, but like a lot of times it is trying to get your attention. And if you're feeling called to just sit on the couch, I mean, not every single day, but like if you just feel like, you know what, you're not doing anything, you're recharging. If you
Hmm.
give yourself a doing thing, you're recharging, right? And it's okay. You need to replenish. We give so much. We're in this, like, in Chinese medicine, it's always this yang, upward giving,
Hmm.
fiery energy, instead of like, all right, I need to go inward and nourish and, just be kind to myself and not beat myself up for not getting something done, and, not writing, the next great Broadway play. I'm not going to be writing Hamilton. First of all, that is not, it's not my skill set, but, you know, and that's it. Just be kind to yourself. It's cool. Like, it's cool to be kind. Sorry, that was really dorky, but what I do. It's what I do best. Um, all right.
No, and it's what you just said. It's also sometimes, you know, having that space, having that rest opens up so much more. Sometimes it's really the most productive or most creative thing to do nothing, take a break a day,
Yeah.
and then you have so much more power and so much more drive to
It,
start again.
yeah.
Or just,
You're
yeah.
recharging. I mean, like, and you're creating that space. I think you said it earlier, in the conversation, is you created the space, and now you're like, you have this, like, you had all these ideas and this creativity and this, now you're like super motivated, and you're on this trajectory where it's like, I don't know that had you like gotten off the plane and just started right away with, I mean, we don't know, right? Like, we don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately, but like, would that have transpired? I mean, I would say probably not. I don't think that you would have been in the same headspace. I think that sort of that pressure to produce is, I mean, it's kind of, why? Let yourself daydream, let yourself, let your mind wander. Things show up for you in such beautiful ways. It's like, I mean,
Hmm.
clarity. I call them head out of ass moments where it's like, oh my God, yes. And it's like, then, that Jackson Pollock style scribbling that happens in your journal of like, oh my God, I have all these ideas. I don't get those when I'm like too structured and too scheduled and too
Hmm. Hmm.
putting all this crazy pressure on myself. It's like, all right, I'm going to take a day. And especially if you're like, I just need a day, then take the day as much as you possibly just take it. It's cool. You're not, you're the only one with the, measuring stick against yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And the first week when I was back, apart from that new element in my morning routine, I was more like, Okay, I'm just gonna rest now. So the first week I didn't do a lot. It's I was really just like being here and acclimatizing, and then all of a sudden it like kind of popped in. I was like, oh, okay, now I'm on fire. Now I can do stuff again. But I didn't rush it, but I also didn't expect it. And sometimes I think that's the secret, to not expect things, and then they turn it so much more beautiful or powerful, or yeah.
I totally agree. I mean, when your expectations are, little to none, it's just like what actually is birthed, what shows up, what is, I think that is such a good point. Okay, so we've talked about morning routine, going for a walk in nature, and being kind to yourself, which I think are huge points. So what's
Yeah. So number four is closely related to being gentle with yourself, and listening to yourself. It's Hold on, it
number?
was just there. It's taking the time to process, because these times are really weird, and I think most of us, we've not been in that space, in such an uncertainty, and it's affecting the whole world. That's a crazy new situation. And so just, and then we have our own stuff going on, so that comes on top, our own daily struggles and problems and whatever it is, and that comes on top. And I think this can create a really tense situation. And so really seeing that and taking the time to process, and not expecting or thinking, oh yeah, well, okay, I'm going through this, okay, tomorrow I'm done. You're probably not. So
Yeah.
really taking the time. And what really helps me with that is, again, journaling, because journaling just really helps me structure things and thoughts. And once you write it down, it's a bit like manifesting it or speaking it out loud. And I think speaking out loud is kind of admitting something, even if it's just, and in this case, it's admitting it to yourself. And it's, yeah, literally things become more clear when I'm writing. And so, yeah, for
I
anyone who's never done it, maybe try it out. Maybe it's something for you.
Do you have like journal prompts, or do you just like sit down and free form every day? Like you just
I
get it out. And
Just free flowing, yeah.
I love that. I mean, I sometimes like a prompt every now and again because, maybe I'm a little bit, emotionally constipated, as some would say. But I think that what your fourth point is so wonderful. A lot of times we're taught to compartmentalize, right? Like we can't bring our full selves to work. We can't, we're
Mm,
fearful of showing emotion because of, how somebody may react to us. There's a fear of looking a certain way. And I think your point is so good. Let yourself feel, let yourself grieve, right? And time, this particular illness is a respiratory illness. It's affecting the lungs. I mean, it's affecting the whole body, but the emotion associated with the lungs is grief. When you hold your breath, you're actually creating a lot of anxiety in your body. And so, when you're holding things in, you're creating that stuckness, that stagnation. So give birth to it, put it on paper. If you don't have someone to talk to, or if you have someone to talk to, give birth to it on paper. I think that that's such a beautiful thing. You don't need to walk around and carry it. It's heavy. It's really, like
yeah,
physically, it does manifest in this really like uncomfortable physicality. It's terrible and also emotional. So that's beautiful. All right,
yeah.
number five.
Number 5 is winding down, because I know there's a lot of news going on at the moment, and some people, they can read it 24/7 or watch it 24/7. And over the past years, I haven't been a big news reader, watcher. I think most of it is just a waste of time. But I mean, if you do, then just stop well before bedtime. And same goes for everything else, what's like device related. So ideally, um,
This is the hardest one for me. I'm admitting it. It is. Yeah, I mean, it totally is. But
yeah.
I think it's when I don't watch TV before bed, which I don't usually watch the news right before bed. I watch something so like, I mean, trashy, right? Like I'm not watching anything that I really need to be fully engaged in, but it's just sort of like it's a bedtime story. I look at it. But if I actually read, I find that I do sleep better. duh, it's not like this is rocket science.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, it's the opposite, and I don't know. Maybe it's also very personal, but it's proven there's science that blue lights kind of making you awake, making you kind of agitated. So ideally, I don't know, put your phone into flight mode around dinner time. Don't open up your computer after dinner, and just really take this, beautiful. It's kind of the twilight daytime to wind down, and it's actually our natural time to wind down. I know the Ayurveda clock there. It's between and 10 p.m. 6 and 10 p.m. That's where you would naturally wind down. The sun's going down, everything's slowing down, the birds are going to bed as well. And so take that time and shut down your devices. Don't read the news anymore. I mean, it's not going to help. You can catch up with the news the next morning if you want, after your morning routine,
Yes.
after your
Yeah.
quiet coffee. And yeah, just do something soothing, something that's calming your nerves. And I like to diffuse essential oils as well. That
Mhm.
really, I think it's a really lovely addition. And, the smells can really help us fall asleep, the different fragrances. So lavender is a good one, but also clary sage and geranium. And yeah, just diffuse that if you like an hour or so before bedtime. And yeah.
Yeah, I miss my diffuser. I have one, at home in
Mhm.
LA, but I do have some of my essential oils with me because they were packed for my trip. And so I've been using lavender, just even a little sprinkle on my pillowcase is like, oh,
Mm.
this is heaven. Sometimes I'll put it in my hair if I know I'm going to wash it the next day, but I think that that's good. So, I mean, all of these are essentially self care, right? Like this is your way of, self care. It's not just about like bubble baths and chocolates and although those are wonderful. I mask hard and I eat chocolate. Chocolate's delicious. Um, but these are all amazing. And you're always, I mean, every time I talk to you, it's like you always have a sense of calm and a sense of just groundedness.
Thank you.
So, you can definitely tell that, something that you're doing. And I think that it's not just like, wake up one day and, your morning routine is going to, cure all. It's not this like,
Oh no.
magic. It's going to take some time to get established. So, I mean, I know that you have, five things. Would you, I kind of hard, and this is sort of a loaded question, but is in ranked order, would you say that, morning routine is probably your first?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. We all,
Um,
humans were um, coughing. Coughing's cool. I know. Yeah. I cough.
um, so when I look at it, I think the morning routine is the most powerful in the long term or ripple effect throughout the day.
Mhm.
Because when I don't do it, that's when I feel it. So maybe not the first day, but maybe on the second or the third, I feel this wake feeling that I'm like, huh, I somehow feel scattered or flaky or something's off. And you can't really pinpoint in the beginning. And then it's like, okay, I didn't meditate or I didn't. So I think this meditation and breath work is really the the most powerful thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And, when you got started with this, I mean, I know that this has been, sort of a project of love. It's evolved over time. If people were to get started, they wake up tomorrow morning, they're like, I'm going to do this. I need to feel, more calm. I need to feel more grounded. Would you suggest breath work and meditation or journaling? I mean, I realize that they are, sort of, they dovetail very nicely together, but it's sort of like, if you, let's start with
Mm,
one, because like we're talking about microdoses, right? Like small
yeah.
lead to, sort of.
I I'd say when you've never done it before, start with just having your coffee or your tea in quiet.
Mm,
Just
mhm.
take this 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, get up a little bit earlier, make your coffee, make your tea, just sit in stillness and observe. Or when you feel like, start journaling. And I think that already helps a lot, and that brings you back in touch, and maybe there's even some things popping up like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling something I've never felt before, or something becomes more clear, or more, how would you say it, all of a sudden you realize there's something you have to process, maybe.
Yeah. Uh,
So maybe start there and then just see how you feel, when you're really waking up with your heart beating fast and you feel really kind of nervous or anxious, then really start with some breathing. So maybe in that case, don't start with your coffee, but start with some breathing, and just, breathe in and out through the nose, just in a natural but kind of quiet way, and breathe into your belly. So that's essential. Breathe into your belly, because that's really grounding, that's soothing your nervous system, that's helping you to calm down. And then maybe inhale for 4, exhale for 4, always in and out through the nose and into your belly, and maybe extend that breath. Inhale for 6, exhale for 6, maybe hold the breath out a little bit, and do that for 5 minutes or so and see how you feel.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that to me is, it feels so good. It's like this juicy,
Mm.
delicious, yummy feeling where you're like, "Oh my god," like just breathing into your lungs and getting that full lung capacity. You're giving so much love to the bottom of your lungs that don't necessarily get a lot of breath. We are such shallow breathers. So I think that that's such a good practice to do in the morning. It's like it's invigorating. It helps wake you up, but in a calm sort of way. It doesn't give you that sort of like excited adrenaline sort of jittery feeling. I can already
Yeah.
hear people going,
So,
I'm not fucking waking up early. Like, I'm just not going to do it. And my message to them
uh,
would be like, if you want to make a change, you have to like do some sacrificing. Maybe not waking up 30 minutes early, try 10. Like, start small and then, build from there, right? Like, I mean, I would assume that you would say probably the same thing.
yeah, start small, but yeah, I mean, okay, start small, but I think 3 minutes are not gonna cut it. So some people say, oh, even if it's just for 1 minute, I don't know, probably not. So I mean, everyone, yeah, try, do your best, and maybe these days, yeah, we start small, and it's hard at the moment, but yeah, I think, I mean, it's hard to give like a time reference here, but I think 15 minutes, it's a good time to sit with your coffee and just tune in a little bit, and yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And I'm sorry, you were going to say something and I rudely cut you off.
Oh, don't worry about it. I think it was just, if um if you guys out there are looking for that breathing exercise, so I refer to it, or I mention it in my podcast as well in the first half, and so I'll guide you a little bit through it. So if you want to come back to that, and there will be more breathing exercises out from my site very soon. So yeah.
That is an awesome segue. You guys, she has an amazing podcast. Not just because I was a guest on the fifth episode, but but the content is so juicy. And so, where can people find the podcast? Where can they find you? Where can they contact you?
So, you can find everything on my website, which is my name. It's Katrin, or Catherine with TH. Then it's my surname. It's hecht.com. And on Instagram, I'm under cat.hecht. So my last name again, Hecht. Yeah. And there you find everything. And there, when you click on the web player on my website, you also see the links to your favorite podcast apps. And yeah, or just look up Cat's podcast on iTunes or Spotify.
Awesome. And I'll include all of that in the comments below. If you guys have any questions or comments, drop them below. Feel free to reach out to Kat directly. She's amazing. I have just loved getting to know her. We kind of randomly got to know each other over the last year through a random comment on Instagram. And she is truly one of the most amazing people, grounded and awesome, and has wonderful guidance. Her podcast is amazing. Any final words or?
Ah,
I know.
No, I think
I'm
it's
good like that.
I mean, do what feels right for you, you know? And just speaking about routines, I think now is an awesome time to start with a routine because we all have more time at hand or more, well, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us, or the time's more flexible. So it's a great place to start. But always have in mind that, routines are ultimately there to support you, to make you feel good, and to help you de stress, and not the other way around. So,
I think
yeah,
that's a really good point that routines are there to support you. And it
yeah.
now is the time, we're in a transition. So now is the time to put a little bit more structure in place to keep us safe and sane and happy. And thank you so much. Third time's a charm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, you guys, if you have any questions or comments for Kat, leave them below and I'll see you next time.